What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X podcast. Today we're going to be counting down our top 10 3DS games, like we did with the Vita and the PS3 and the Xbox One. No, we didn't do Xbox One. We did Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, we'll run down the rules, explain how it works, and then we'll start our list at 10 and go in a circle up to 1. So the rules for this are we each made a list of 10.
Yeah.
They cannot be remasters or ports in any way, shape, or form, even if they added new content and stuff. It has to originally release on that console. No virtual console stuff, anything like that, or these lists would be very different.
Mm-hmm.
You can only have one from each franchise, so pick your favorite and kind of put your vote into that one, I would say is the best way to describe that. Oh, I guess we should do the point system, how that works.
Yeah, that was probably the other
number
thing.
10 gets 1 point, number 9 gets 2. We keep going up, and then we add all the points together, and then we break some tiebreakers, and we get a complete top 10 list. So, my number 10, worth 1 point, is Bravely Default. This is one that I was toying with, and I was like, I want it on my list. I don't know where it should go. This is the revert back to the old Final Fantasy series, class-based systems, and Square famously, we didn't know people would want this. Like they were making this game almost as a throwaway, and then it ended up doing really well, and they did Bravely second because of it. It does have some issues. I guess I'll call them pacing issues with length of game, things like that. But I think just if I were to recommend, that's what this is, recommending a list. You don't want something too complicated. There's no like a middle game in a series or something like that that'll confuse people. I think Bravely Default is just eking on my top 10 for games I would recommend.
It's a Square game. It's a solid Square game, so it's going to have the typical
3DS.
Overbloated story. But going back to what you said, everyone kind of refers to it as a love letter to the old type of
that's a good
Final Fantasy games.
So uno point for Bravely Default. Kellen, what do you got for me?
My number 10, I have the Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies, because that was the 3DS release that actually has Phoenix Wright in it.
And does it turn out he's good in those games, or?
Yeah, those games are a lot better when they actually have Phoenix Wright in them. What was the other one? Apollo Justice?
Yes.
Yeah, Apollo Justice. And, I mean, they strayed pretty far from the path.
They got away from
that series. But
what makes Phoenix Wright, and they went back to it for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes the list. But I haven't actually played this one. But I know what Phoenix Wright is, so it's good enough.
Good enough for you?
That's why it's at number 10. Otherwise, it may be higher because I love Phoenix Wright. So.
My 9s and 10s are always like, I don't want to call them pet games, but games I'm like, it needs to be on the list, but I can't put it higher than Game X.
Anytime I talk about DES or 3DS, I have to mention a Phoenix Wright game.
It's fair.
Well, speaking of games that just kind of need to be on the list, Super Mario 3D Land. I am obviously not the biggest Mario fan, but I did like this one. The controls were easy enough. I think it was, for me, who's not seasoned Mario veteran, it was one of the better controlling Mario games. And it was one of the more difficult ones, I think. Unless you use that stupid, the Tanuki suit, which kind of dumbed the game down.
You die so many times or whatever, and it gives it to you,
aside from using that and like cheesing bosses and stuff like that, it was pretty cool. I was actually glad to own a Mario game whenever I got that one. So someone who's not a fan of the game being, able to enjoy this one at least, I feel like that deserves a number 10.
My number 9, worth 2 points, Kid Icarus. Now, I would love to put this game in the top 4 at least. I really like this game. It's a comedy-driven game. Very, very humorous game, which is not something we see a lot.
Not something you like a lot.
You don't like
that's not
fun.
true. Lots of like pop culture references to other video games, like them asking to be in Smash Brothers in the middle of a fight, things like that. My big problem with this game is I'm left-handed, and this game is very much made for right-handed people. You have to hold the 3DS and move your character with the analog stick thing, and then the circle pad. And then you need to use the stylus to, attack and aim it's an on-rail shooter. So you need to use the stylus to aim while you're moving your character with circle pad. When you're left-handed, that don't work so well. So you basically have to play it right-handed, and then you're going to get totally destroyed. And it's scale, its difficulty is the same as Smash Brothers, so it's got like a slider from like 1 to 9 type thing, and like you like it starts on like 4 or something, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm like 3, can't do this. 2, okay, 1, all right, I can play the game now, guys, just because I'm left-handed and it's so difficult to aim. But if you're right-handed, I'm sure if I was right-handed, my experience with this game would be much higher, because I loved everything about the game, minus the fact that I had trouble playing it on higher difficulties because of the nature of the game.
To be fair, they aimed for the 80 to 90% majority of the population.
That's why that game would be an honorable mention. It's not even on my list.
Yeah,
I'm
I enjoyed it so much, and I love Kid Icarus. So it's definitely, I knew it was going to be on my list, easy, but I didn't know where it would fall. And number 9's where
it got knocked off mine.
Where it hit, yeah.
Number 9, Zero Escape, Virtue's Last Reward.
Ooh, I like it.
I do too. That game's just so freaking different that it's a good recommendation for a 3DS because it's just different from everything else the way it works. I like the puzzle and the story-driven part of it. It's a very cool game. One that I would like to have if I could get all of them on 3DS. But probably I'm going to go through those eventually on PC when I do go through.
Right. You can technically get all of them on 3DS. But the first one was on DS, which is playable on 3DS.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but...
I will say, because I brought up the franchise thing earlier, playing the first one definitely enhances the second one, no question, but you can play the second one, and it's a complete enough story without the first one, which I'm just going to go ahead and throw something like Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. I think as far as like gameplay and everything goes, that is a higher up game, but like I can't recommend somebody play that game without knowing the story. This is the worst one you play. You need to play 7 games to know what's going on. Have you ever played the other Kingdom? No, well, don't touch it. Similar... or opposite situation with us, I think. Yeah,
it's basically a mention because of how unique it is. Like, I just really like the way they did that game. It's really well done. It's very cool.
Number 9, Bravely Default.
Ooh.
To add what you said, it is an ode to some of the older classic JRPG games. I think what really made it awesome, or I guess got sort of the buzz about it, was the combat system. Because even though it was turn-based, it was like... I see most people compare it to like a deposit and withdrawal system, which is kind of correct in the fact that you could go default route and brave route, and it was like you could either just do the defensive kind of just take one turn as it happens sort of thing, or set up multiple turns ahead. And you get to the point where you get so far in the game, do the job system, and like actually build like a strategy, so you feel like you learn the game to where you can just like one-shot bosses before they can even hit you, sort of thing. So you can super adapt and become like godlike level, which is cool in long, drawn-out RPGs like this, because I feel like you've done the hard work to get there. So it's kind of cool to have that payoff to where you're just crushing stuff like crazy. And yeah, I like that brave and default system that's back and forth, because it makes you think a lot harder than... oh no, I'm hurt, use the potion. Oh, I'm full health and he's weak, use the magic attack. Like it takes the brain dead portions of turn-based battle and like makes it sort of unique every single fight.
Yeah, I feel like turn-based now you need to have, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but you need to have like a gimmick to make it. And just the straight back and forth stuff doesn't really work anymore.
You gotta have something unique, a twist to
it. Number 8.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. This is another game that I need this on my list. I'm not quite sure where. I know there's multiple Monster Hunters on the 3DS. I just straight up went with Metacritic to pick my choice, and that is because I haven't played the Monster Hunter series, but I cannot deny its popularity. I cannot deny how big of a deal it is, and I've played Soul Sacrifice and I've played Freedom Wars, and they're both
fair enough
based on Monster Hunter, so I completely get it. And to add to that, it's on a portable, which is exactly where you want those style games.
Yes.
Multiple people can all meet together much easier and take out, these huge monsters, super deliberate combat, and an endless loop of gameplay. So Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate.
We're at number 8?
C.
I don't have letters on here. Smash Brothers 3DS. More Smash Brothers. I really like the way this game played on the 3DS. I think it fit the portable feel really well, actually. Just more Smash Brothers.
You played this on the regular 3DS, correct?
Yeah. I've just got a 3DS XL. I don't have a new 3DS or whatever. I thought it played perfectly fine.
And you still recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't have any problems with it. I used to play it quite a bit. Even when we had 8 people over here playing it, I think I used my 3DS as my controller.
You did?
Yeah. I like the way it plays on the 3DS. It's Smash Brothers though, so
once again the franchise
it's
machine.
Just kind of there because it's there, you know.
My number 8, Phoenix Wright Dual Destinies. To add what Kellen said, I guess a little bit more experience with it. Yeah, it stays to the tried and true Phoenix Wright system, and it doesn't take. Basically, there's all these characters that you have all these cases against, and so it builds up a pretty big library of relatable characters and stuff like that, and that's where all the spin-offs came from. So they finally dialed it back and kind of went back more to the origins, I guess, if you want to call it that, and brought it back to Phoenix Wright and his new man Apollo, or not really new man, but like a tag team sort of thing. So they were going at the cases Phoenix Wright style, and you could kind of see like the mentor protege sort of dynamic, I guess, with them. And there was a lot of cool cases. I mean, any of these games, whether it's Phoenix Wright, Danganronpa, any of like court or trial based games, are really I'm sure there's more too, are really dependent on the cases themselves, not so much this character's good or bad or something like that. Like you want the actual meat of the story to be in the case,
the mystery,
for it to make sense, be cool, have some awesome twists and things you didn't see coming. And this kind of goes back to that formula without getting spun off in a weird direction, and you're like, where's Phoenix Wright, basically. So you need the main mascot of the series, I think, and they finally brought him back. So
I like it.
And he's awesome.
My next one is Box Boy. Box Boy is a very Kevin game. It is a side-scrolling puzzle game. I'm a big fan of side-scrolling puzzle games, and the hook in this one is that you are a cube, technically, so you can kind of... So you can unfold yourself to solve puzzles. You can stretch yourself in like an L to climb up a platform and then use it to get down. You can cross gaps that are in the floor. And it's just I mean, it's technically platforming by definite. You're not like straight jumping or anything like that. But it is a geometry-based puzzle game. Side scroller, I guess is the best way to put it, and it's actually a very good one at that. So Box Boy.
Mario Kart 7
for number 7.
For number 7, it worked out that way. Again, just another traditional Nintendo franchise that this one works really well on handheld. Plays very well. I like pick it up, do a Grand Prix while you're out somewhere, and put it down. Like, it works really well. It handled well. It was a fun game.
It's surprising to see. Like, I've never done like a top 10 or top 5 Mario Kart games, but there's a lot of good ones on handheld.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Over the years,
that one was very good. The original DS one was one of my favorites. I played the crap out of that Mario Kart.
Really?
Yep.
Had good tracks, at least.
It did. It had really good tracks. Yeah, Mario Kart.
Next one for me, Shin Megami Tensei 4. Sort of like another series that we'll probably mention at some point. This was going from the Sony route over to a handheld version, and the big problem whenever you do that is that you kind of dumb down the systems a little bit with some of the harder games. Shin Megami is notoriously known for being pretty difficult.
A little bit.
So this one, I don't want to say dumb down and stress that too much, but you know, it was noticeably easier than some of the other Shin Megami games. It was really cool. That had a big samurai theme to it, but other than that, kind of stick to the core themes of Shin Megami games. So you had the basically personas, but the demons and negotiations with them, the cool battles, the really awesome music. Music was probably the highest point in this game. They even had a DLC for Persona 5 where you got to play Shin Megami 4 characters, the outfits and the battle music.
I didn't know
that. So that was cool to see that. And yeah, I mean, Shin Megami launched one of this table's favorite series in video games, and it was cool to see, you know, going back to some of the like origin feels of that sort of game. So that's why it is number 7.
Number 6, Mario Golf World Tour. I like golf games. I don't play many sports games, but I do like golf games.
Especially right now.
And similar to something like Kart, it's just enough like removed from the average, I guess, golf game, like realistic.
Yeah.
You got some zany courses going on. You have solid golf mechanics, similar to how Mario Kart's got some zany courses, but solid driving mechanics. Yeah. This is, once again, a great portable game. For the same reason you can do some Grand Prix. You can, just...
knock out a back 9 off you.
Yeah, go ahead. Why not? So a big fan of this. Once again, like I said, pairing up for multiplayer, all that stuff. Golf games on the go, turns out pretty solid. Pretty solid idea.
Yeah.
Come on, Switch. Let's go.
Switch it up. Number 6, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I have Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, and this is just like the better version of it, basically, from what I understand. Those games are just the biggest time sink I've ever seen in my life, but they are a lot of fun. You're just constantly hunting and finding gear, and it's never ending. It's a great portable game. Pick it up and play it no matter what you're doing.
I like the how long to beats for Monster Hunter.
My God,
whenever you look it up, you're like, 250 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's stupid long to be able to do anything of relevance in that game. But they are a lot of fun. They're really well done, really well made. It's a good game, and they're great for portable.
Mm-hmm.
A game that no one's mentioned yet, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate.
All right.
I have played this one. I think I'm in the 70, 75 hour range whenever I stop playing. This game or this series gets better with each game, obviously. Like you said, it's infinite time loop, so it's just something that you can just constantly have. I mean, the mobile game that I play all the time, when it's just, a break at work or some downtime, something like that, like there's like real no end to it. And it's cool to have one of those types of games just so you can just sort of plug along when you don't have the chance to sit down and grab a controller at your house and play. But yeah, it's cool, and it's nice to see that the Acclaim's been picking up more and more, at least here in the West, so maybe we'll get considered for some of their game releases, and so it's not just a Japan-only sort of thing, but it's been growing, in large part due to this game in particular. Its reception over here.
Number 5?
Yeah.
I'm excited because I don't know my list. Mario Kart 7. Mario Kart 7, everything that you said about it, I like what it added. I feel like it did that thing where it added enough stuff that was interesting that when it appeared in 8, I was like, you guys are trying a little too hard now. Like, I think it was the perfect balance of, okay, we got the parachutes and the underwater stuff, and then 8's like, we're out of terrain. Riding on the walls.
Sideways.
And I was like, these courses just aren't as good as 7's.
Yeah.
Like, I think 7 is superior to 8. And then I keep saying, this is a portable only, unlike something like the Vita that had you could play it on the TV option if you wanted to.
Who would do that?
Yeah. So portability important. Mario Kart, fantastic for that.
Especially when you're in a kart, like it just feels natural. You're playing in a go-kart game that you're playing it portably.
Controller. Number 5, Project X Zone.
Huh.
So this is one of the weirdest games I've ever come across that I really, really like. It's a crossover tactical RPG featuring characters from Capcom, Sega, all sorts of crazy crap.
Almost everything. Yeah.
The original one had 90 characters, not counting like exclusives and like special events. 90 in a freaking portable game.
I like it.
I love their combat system, though, because it's like grid-based, and it feels kind of like another game we'll get to later, I'm sure, where you walk up to the enemies and within the grid, within your attack range and whatnot. But then you actually go into the fights, and there's like combat mechanics, like fighting game mechanics. It's really cool.
It's basically the I Love Japan cast of characters.
Oh, God, it's ridiculous. Like, there's like Mega Man characters and all sorts of crap in it, so you might like it.
Changing my list now.
No, it's just a very cool game. They're very cool. They're a lot of fun. That combat, though, was so unique because I'd never seen anything like that before.
I remember you talking about them because there's a second one.
A sequel came out last year, I believe, that I never got to because I hadn't finished the first one. And it's just a lot of fun. It was just so different. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, there's mashup games, and then there's that, where there's like every...
You're wandering around, you're like, oh, there's Chris Redfield. What's he doing? It's like, why is he in this game?
My number 5, Mario Kart 7. Other than what's been said by both of you at this point already, I would say I don't know how I would compare it to the Game Boy Advance Mario Kart, but it's at least second best mobile Mario Kart to me.
Okay, I'll allow that.
At least second.
It's about to kick you off the show.
Game Boy Advance was pretty good. But yeah, it's Mario Kart. Exactly what you would want from it.
Karts and Mario.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Mm-hmm.
The Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. I think this is arguably, I mean, whatever people want to say about Breath of the Wild, this is definitely the best handheld Zelda that they've done probably ever. And part of that reason is because it's just based on Link to the Past, which is the best Zelda ever. And they took that universe, they rewrote it a bit. I actually would put this much higher if it didn't feel just like it takes place in the same world, and they don't do that with Zelda very often. Like Majora's Mask did that with Ocarina of Time, but they don't like base it in the same Hyrule very often, and they did that with this game. And they introduced Lorule, which is an awesome name, and they introduced the 2D mechanic where you could go into a wall and like kind of 2D side scroll walk around and then pop out the other side. But their biggest innovation in this is that you could get any items at the start and then go do the dungeons in any order. And it was cool because you might have different items than somebody else going into the dungeon. You're like, I got a fire rod and an ice rod and a hook shot, and somebody else might have done that and not had any of those things. So it introduces that into it. And the puzzles in this one, I'm a bigger fan of the top-down Zeldas, and I actually really enjoyed like the dungeon puzzles in this one. But yeah, like I said, would have been higher if it didn't remind me so much of Link to the Past. I almost wish it was a different Hyrule instead of keeping it in the same like universe. But
yeah. Number 4, Bravely Default. It's a callback to all the old Square games. It plays extremely well. I love the Brave and Default system. That's one of my favorite turn-based combat systems. I think it works really well, and it's a big enough twist that it plays differently from just about any other turn-based game I've played. Yeah, big world, good characters, all sorts of good RPG stuff going on.
Great art.
Yeah, it's got great art. Very good music, too. Like, It's a good game.
All around awesome. Number 4?
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Super Smash Bros. 3DS. To add on to what Kellen said, I think I was surprised at how well it played. I got the new 3DS version, I guess, if that matters.
That's fair. I thought it might have like frame rate issues particularly.
Because this was really their first time. I mean, I know we've gotten the like kill zones from Sony where we've gotten, kind of an off-spin game that's just for handheld, and we've gotten some Uncharted stuff and things like that. So we know it works, like taking a big franchise and then like making a mobile version of it. But this one came out, a month or two before?
I think it was only 2 weeks. Or was it a month?
I thought it was like October or something. I don't know.
Really. I thought it was like 2 months. So I don't know. Because I know the Wii U one came out in November. Yeah.
So it came out a period.
First, and I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to expect with that. I was like, oh, is this just like a money grab, basically? But it wasn't. Felt really nice. It looked really nice.
Had its own modes that the console one never got, literally. It had, I think it was called Trophy Run, was its exclusive
really,
mode.
It's like a really cool way to hype the, I guess, full disc game that was coming out right behind it, was just basically give them a watered down version of it that really wasn't that watered down. The only weird part about it was not having the GameCube controller while playing it, just because you're sort of used to that now with playing a Smash Bros. Game. But other than that, like, it performed really well. Like, super exceeded my expectations.
Super smashed your expectations?
Yeah. For what I would have expected from that. Like I said, I thought it was just a cash grab.
Sure. Number 3. We getting up there.
Or down there.
Animal Crossing New Leaf. I love me some Animal Crossing. I don't know if you guys know this. I love Animal Crossing.
You seem like an Animal Crossing kind of guy.
It's actually one of my top Nintendo franchises, and New Leaf brings everything from like the GameCube Animal Crossings. They added expansions like super late in its life cycle with like different like puzzle modes and things just to keep the gameplay alive. They added amiibo support, super things like that. But New Leaf is the best Animal Crossing that there is, and God, I want one on Switch. That's another theme that's going to keep all these games I want on Switch. But yeah, Animal Crossing is the endless gameplay loop that you were talking about earlier. You run a town, you're the mayor of the town. You can do whatever you want to go fishing, you want to cut down trees, you want to, make money, you do whatever, and there's no ending to the game. So you could, in theory, play it infinitely. You rearrange your home and all that stuff, which it's one of those, it sounds stupid, and then you start doing it, and you're like, man, I got to push this tray over here and push this there. I got to get everything exactly how I want.
I think it's good to have those infinite loop games because, sometimes it sucks to end a game. Like, when you get to the end, you're like, oh, I can't play it anymore.
Sometimes you just want to grind.
It's nice to have those.
So, Animal Crossing, my number 3.
Fair enough. Number 3, Persona Q. So this is actually the first Persona game I played, which turned out to be a mistake because it's a crossover and has all the characters in it.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, this was the first Persona
Not that
game.
it was a crossover, but that was your first one.
Yeah, that's why I didn't finish it. I was like, I need to stop this and play 3 and 4.
Interesting.
I feel like I'm missing something here.
I feel like I should know more about these people. Well, I'd seen the anime for 4, so I knew everything about them. But then you meet the cast from 3, and I'm like, I don't know who these people are. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of things.
It's fair.
Who are these 12 characters?
Very different from other Persona games.
Extremely different. Now that once I played the other ones, the combat's, it seems the same, but it's really not.
It's not the same at all.
The lineup thing is kind of weird, the front and back lineup, but I like that.
Yeah, lots of games have that, just not games that I've ever played.
Yeah.
The first person dungeon crawling, and then when you go like hit a foe and you're actually in combat, it's like you could put 3 people in the front.
You have the option of 3 in the front and 3 in the back,
but you only get 5.
Yeah.
And you arrange it how you want, and some characters are better in the back. So you might want like a healer in a specific spot, things like that.
Yeah, and it makes more sense when you're playing with like archers and healers and mages and warriors and stuff like that, but you don't think about that with Persona characters.
Right,
even though they have magic, you don't really think
they have magic. They have characters that literally just punch. And it's like, you should probably be in the front.
Teddy should be up in the front.
Go.
Yeah. It's a neat crossover that I'd like to finish now that I've played through 3 and 4.
Great music.
It has great music. I like the map, the way you have to draw it in. It takes
that was super unique.
It takes a lot of time, but it's very cool idea.
This is one of the only games on this list. Like, with the Vita, I feel like, because I'm Vita fanboy, I feel like there's a lot of features on that I love when games use. There's ones where I don't love when they use them, but like Tearaway using all the pieces of the Vita and everything.
The
3DS, I'm totally the opposite. I'm like, there's so much stuff on that they do not need to use. There's 3D that's been used good twice. Like, one of them's in Mario, and one of them's in Kid Icarus, where there's an area where there's fake walls that you can only see if the 3D's on.
And then sometimes a lot of games like Pokemon up until a certain release using the 3D slider on kind of broke the game. It slowed it down.
It slows it down. The frame rate drops. So with Persona, I actually think that the second screen, it's helpful in some other games like Zelda and things, but the second screen is mandatory.
It is part of the game.
Q. You have to draw the map as you figure out where you're going.
Like half map maker, half dungeon crawler.
Yeah, and that's really cool.
It's very cool.
Number 3, Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth.
Oh,
is that the sequel?
Yeah, that's the same one. Really love the music. I'll fight you both on a different podcast episode about how great the soundtrack is.
Why would you fight me? I agree with you.
You think it's one of the best ones?
I might place it a little higher than other games, but
out of your mind.
I really liked what I really enjoyed because I was able to play this after 4 and 3. I still haven't beat it yet, but I still need to. Was that I got to choose? You get to choose. Do you want to go the Persona 3 route or the Persona 4 route? And it's not completely different where you're playing you beat the game and you go back and play the 3 route really, but you get to choose who's your mainstay guy, and that affects your music a little bit. There's remixes for both versions, and I don't know. That little bit of choice helped. And besides that, you have 20 people between both games that you can squad up with, and it's one of the few games where you have all these characters that you can level up and give certain abilities to. I feel like this is one of the few where I care about leveling up every single person. Usually my main problem is I level the hell out of 4 or 5 guys out of 20 and then just storm through the game, but now I want all of them, instead of having 5 at level 60 and no one else being used, I want everyone else at 30 and just move forward because I like them all, because characters are a big portion of this franchise. I like the art too, and the 2 new characters that they showed in the game that weren't from 3
the 2
and
new
4.
characters are sweet.
Yeah, they're very cool.
And kind of like the fact that you're just bouncing around, because obviously for these 2 games to meet, there had to be a time situation, some sort of time travel, and the way that they did that is cool. I always appreciate a good time travel story, so the way that they interjected these 2 points in time were interesting, and it's a good game.
Next. Number 2, worth 9 points. Virtue's Last Reward from the Zero Escape series. Yeah, I love this game. 50% graphic novel decision making, branching paths, all that stuff, and then 50% puzzle game, locked in a room, find a way out, tear through the room and try to find keys.
Betrayal and
tons of betrayal, tons of twists and turns in the story, a little bit of science fiction going on, a lot of reality with different theories and like principles and dilemmas and all this stuff. Really like the game. Great characters, great voice acting, and the puzzles are super fun. So, love that game.
Fair enough. Number 2, Pokemon Sun and Moon. We're doing both. Am I gonna pick one?
You can say which one you like the better. But
I mean,
they're
just,
together.
Yeah, it's a generation, I think. So
then Sun and Moon. It was I love the Pokemon games. I've played every generation, I believe, at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a bigger leap forward than I thought it would be, even after seeing, like, the in-game changes and whatnot. And it's just really well done. They're always really well done. The new settings, fantastic. Alola or whatever.
I do like this one.
Hawaii. The new Pokemon are great. The Alola special Pokemon are great. Like, it's a great game. It's more Pokemon. I'll never argue with that.
And that steel case.
And I love my steel case.
I will not argue with the steel case. It's awesome.
Steel case is sweet. The game's very good. It ran great, even though I didn't have the new 3DS. It still works fine. I probably should get one of those, but otherwise. Yeah. And they're great mobile games, which is a theme for this list, apparently, because it's a mobile system. Yeah, they're great to have on the go because you can just go hunt Pokemon for 20 minutes while you're waiting for something. Like
very addictive.
Yeah.
Very addictive. Yeah, and then you get back to wherever you're going, and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to keep playing this.
I don't actually want to do this with Pokemon. Yeah, Pokemon Sun and Moon.
I feel like me and this man's 1 and 2 might be swapped. But number 2, Fire Emblem Awakening. This, for all the viewers out there and for Kevin's knowledge as well, Awakening is the one with Chrom.
Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, so it's the people that you sort of recognize and have seen pretty often. Chrom, Lucina, all those people. Why I chose this one, even though I guess now it's the third most recent.
A lot of ties going on.
I think it's just because of this was the first one. I mean, I know Smash games have kind of had like the Roys and the Ikes and the Marths and the stuff like that, but this is the one where it really caught fire and started bleeding into some of the other games. I think even the Fire Emblem Warriors, the main character is Chrom in this one too. So that's the one that really got the most sort of, I guess, presence, the biggest presence outside of just the game itself. It played really well. The story was awesome. They bumped it up a little bit as far as the visual quality and as far as the combat. It really started taking advantage of the 3D sort of system, so you could zoom out, play around with the camera while you were fighting. You could see the animations in full motion, blowing people up or however you wanted to fight, and it was really cool. The story was awesome. That was probably a key point with this last one, why I didn't choose it, and because it was sort of questionable, is it a remake or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think this one just caught the most wind as far as just becoming popular and making Fire Emblem what it is today. I think that was one of the bigger games to do that. Because, I mean, people know who Marth is, and yeah.
From Smash Brothers.
Yeah, and like.
He's in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, he fights for his friends, but like they probably couldn't name like the games that some of these guys came
That's
from.
Definitely true. He fights for his friends.
So when you finally get Chrom, you're like, oh, that's Awakening, duh. Like, that was cool that it finally got that popular. So, number 2.
Number 1. Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight, I still think is one of the best games of the generation. It hit the Wii U and the 3DS, which is very interesting start, but that's where it's got its start. It gets all those expansions, everything that, the treasure trove with the Spectre Knight, and it's crazy because I feel like every time I bring this game up, there's just more crap to talk about in the game. They're like, oh, now here's this and here's this, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've gone through it in between every time I've talked about it. I went through and beat the game again because they keep adding stuff. This one had amiibo support, which adds a whole nother mode to the game. Definitely. I don't know if I want to say 100% the best, but probably the best of those like throwback games where games are trying to emulate old games.
Yeah.
This was copied enough things from other old games to keep it familiar, but it felt totally different. It doesn't feel like Mega Man when you're playing it it doesn't feel like DuckTales. It doesn't feel like Zelda 2. It feels like its own thing. Your character runs at a different pace, and it takes you a minute to get adjusted to it because you think it would feel like those games. And then you're like, oh, I get it. Now I got the timing of everything and how everything works. And then the level design's insanely good, and I don't know how they keep turning out these different expansions with all these crazy level designs that work. But yeah, Shovel Knight.
And he has a cool helmet.
And he's got a cool helmet.
Number 1, Fire Emblem Awakening.
Good man.
What? It's a good game. That's all I got. It's a good game. No.
All right.
Probably my favorite tactics game. Because it has some of the best characters in it. It has a great setting. I love the opening to that game. It's really well set up. I love their little time travel thing they got going on, too.
Yeah.
It's really well done. It makes sense. It fits. It's laid out extremely well. It works great on the 3DS. You touch screen through all the stuff. Because it's a lot of menu-driven stuff. And it was almost the last Fire Emblem. Something I found out looking up stuff for this list is that was supposed to be the last Fire Emblem. But it caught on so well. They're like, yeah, you can just keep making them. It's fine.
I'll say.
Like it was supposed to end with that. Yeah. But it's just a great game that happens to be on this system. It's another good mobile game because you can go in and do one of your battles. It takes 10, 15 minutes, depending on what it is. Be done with it. You can go train somewhere. You can continue your story, whatever you want to play it. Plus, the list of characters in these games is insanely long, so it feels different every time you go through it because you can just pick different characters to
This
follow.
one, too, something I forgot to mention, this one really harped on the fact of you get your male character and female character of your choice, and you match them together, and all of a sudden you get a baby, and that baby is always more powerful than both the parents.
Awesome.
And because of the time sort of skip mechanic in the game, then you can just have them on your team.
They can come.
Then be like 10 years old already, and be like, huh? Did we just do the thing? And
You have a sword? How can you hold that? You just killed your mom with it.
But probably the reason Awakening gets it over some of the more recent games, the ones that are at least eligible for our rules, is probably just the characters. I mean, probably Fates is probably a better game, especially with the 3 versions, how one's more of a casual, one's super difficult and tactics oriented, and one's just kind of a bridge between the two. But Awakening's characters, like top to bottom, even like the secondary, tertiary characters are just like awesome.
It's really well written. It's awesome. It's a great game.
Number 1, Pokemon Sun and Moon.
All right.
Easily, and I don't have to limit it to just 3DS, easily my favorite Pokemon game because I feel like it's the payoff game. Basically, each time there's a Pokemon game released, it was awesome, groundbreaking, whatever, but there was always just like, there's always like, why couldn't we have this very simple option? Why do I have to waste a slot for a guy to just use cut and fly and surf and stuff like this? So like all of these years of why can't we have this simple feature added in the game? Because they'll chip away at the list. But they finally...
You give them a list of 10 and they put 3 of them in.
Yeah, they finally just crossed everything off the list and gave longtime fans stuff they have been asking for literal ever.
Since the 90s.
Yeah. On top of that, a new generation of Pokemon, and it was cool because they dabbled in bringing some of the Gen 1 Pokemon back. And if it was a fire Pokemon then, maybe it was an ice version now. Or if it was a ground version, maybe it's flying or something like that. So it was cool to see some old characters that maybe have fallen out of the limelight a little bit. Not the Pikachus and the Charizards, but some of the other people you kind of forget about, and seeing them pop up in a cool new way and being relevant again. Steel Case was awesome, and I like the fact that they're getting a little bit more away from you got to buy both or you got to trade.
Their online system has helped that a lot.
Yeah, and their online system as far as battles against people, battling with people. There's like so many features. I still haven't even dove into it as much as I probably normally would have for a Pokemon game, but
yeah,
like
I didn't really either.
This really feels like the payoff version for people who've been playing for a long time, and that was awesome. And then it also, obviously, just like every new Pokemon game, gets a lot of new people into the mix, because especially for this one, it came out right after Pokemon Go, or the same year as Pokemon Go, so there was that whole new frenzy of people wanting to play Pokemon, like an actual Pokemon game.
Like a real Pokemon game?
Because it was
better.
Yikes.
It is.
It definitely wasn't then. I don't. But yeah, it's the best Pokemon. So it is number 1.
It is the best Pokemon.
Yeah, and he's got the best case.
I love that case. Kevin's doing math.
He's mathing.
We could be here a while.
I already messed up once.
See, told you. Did you figure something out?
Any tiebreakers?
No, well, yeah.
He broke one of them. I already watched.
I can already break them because every tiebreaker either has 2 of us that already have it on the list, and the other person doesn't.
Yeah.
So it would obviously just be higher than the person who doesn't have
Fair
it.
enough.
So they actually all break fairly. Like
broke fairly cleanly.
Yeah. Like, I don't think that there's a reason to put... The only one that I think is questionable is Bravely Default and Smash Brothers. But, like, I didn't have Smash on my list, and we all had Bravely Default. So I just put Bravely Default higher.
Fair enough.
So doing
Wins
that...
by default?
Yeah. So doing that, I think everything broke... Yeah. So we're good.
Cool. Everything
all
broke.
Right.
Everything's broke. It's like a normal day for us.
So here is the list with tiebreakers broken. Broke fairly. It actually broke way easier than any of our other ones, which is nice.
Usually we have to debate.
Well, the worst one was the Vita one because there was only 2 of us,
just you
and we
me.
were just like,
I don't know.
Well,
Vita.
it really helped that we chose the same Pokemon and Fire Emblem game. So.
Yeah, I thought I was
think Nick
waiting for
I didn't
Kellen
think
to
Nick was
pick a
going to pick
different.
Awakening because I love that game.
I thought Kellen was going to pick a different one or something. I was like, this is
And I
gonna be funny.
really like Fates, a couple of characters.
Fates has a couple of really good
Especially
characters.
one sister character.
All right, number 10.
Yeah.
Animal Crossing New Leaf.
How'd that make it there?
Kevin.
Number 9. Shovel Knight.
Kevin.
Number 8. Super Smash Brothers. 3DS.
Fair enough.
Number 7. Bravely Default. Number 6. Zero Escape. Virtue's Last Reward.
Sweet.
Number 5. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Number 4. Persona Q.
Oh. I was like, damn.
He just
Number 3. Mario Kart 7. Number 2. And 1 was the tie between Fire Emblem and Pokemon, so I get to break it since I'm the only person who didn't have a say in that. And I put Fire Emblem at number 2 and Pokemon at number 1 because I can much easier recommend a Pokemon game to somebody than a Fire Emblem game.
I guess
if
you
I
could
had
go to sales or something to
well,
break the
I
tie.
mean, just like
No,
if
we've added 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, so he just broke it.
Right, yeah, you guys literally tied each other, so I'm just the tiebreaker. So I would put
I was
Pokemon,
completely okay
as
with
much
that.
as it hurts me, I would put Pokemon in both.
You liked it.
Fire Emblem. That's fair. I mean, I've played
You
Fire
liked it
Emblem
more than
and,
Fire
and
Emblem.
Pokemon, and
Yeah.
it's fair. So that is our list. I am actually totally content with that list.
Ours usually, they turn out pretty well.
I thought when we first started doing this and we were making our lists, I was like, oh my God, I hate that. Oh my God. Oh my God. And like in these last couple, I feel like they've been shaping out more like, yeah, no, that's actually
That's
a
fine.
really solid list. So please put your top 10 3DS games down in the comments below. But thank you for being here, Nick.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for being here, Kellen.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching. We'll speak with you next time.
Give me all my games back. Pair of dice. Nice.
Fuck me,
You pulled on the... We were ready till somebody hit the tablecloth with everything they have.
Fuck me.
No, thank you.
I don't care.